All right. Well, welcome today. Hi, Mindy. How are you doing this morning?
Good, Lana. It's so good to be with you again this week.
We are so glad to have Mindy, and this is our third episode in our intentional living series. So first we talked about kiddos and bringing stability in their life, and last episode we talked about marriages, and today I'm super excited to get into talking about self-care from the Christian perspective, and Mindy is the best person to bring on for that. So you probably remember Mindy is a family counselor. She is a mother of five. Two of those kiddos were adopted from West Africa. She is military family, founder of Gospel Centered Health, and she has some amazing things that I want her to share about today. So welcome, Mindy. We're so glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Lana. I'm really excited about this topic.
Oh, Mindy, it's doing it again. I can't hear you. Oh, let's see. How do I get out of Siri?
Are you on a Mac?
Okay.
Is she engaging? Like you're asking her, like, is it like she thinks you're
Yes.
saying, "Hey Siri"?
Yes. So
Ashley,
how do
could you
I?
please delete this part? We're just going to start over in a second. Go into your preferences. I think you can turn her off in your preferences, in your system preferences.
Okay.
I bet if
So
Ashley was here, she would know. We just keep talking about Ashley. Karen Mees asked me for Ashley's information.
Oh, did she?
I think she's ready to get serious about some of her soul care. She really wants to write a book.
Oh. Okay. So now she hasn't come back on.
Say, "Hey, Siri." Oh, see, it just did it for me. Dang it.
Oh. Okay. Do we assume that she's gone? I've deleted her from my desktop. I deleted her. Cancel culture. What else should I do? System preferences. I don't even, oh, there we go. Enable. I'm going to disable her because I don't even ever use her for anything.
When was it? Where was it in system preferences?
It was
Under Siri.
Yeah. Okay, let me see here.
And off. Did you just click off?
There. Well, I do, and then there we go. Okay, now we're good. Okay, should we start over? Oh my goodness. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Let's start over. Yeah.
Okay, starting over.
Let's start over. Okay. Hey, Mindy, we're so excited to have you here. I am so glad that you're joining us. For those of you that haven't met Mindy before, she is a family counselor, mother of five. She has two adoptive daughters from West Africa. She's in a military family. She is the founder of Gospel Centered Health, has some amazing products out there that we definitely want to share. Don't let me forget to have you share those at the end, Mindy, but we are so pumped to have you here today talking about self-care. So I'm kind of bummed because this is our final series, our final episode in the series. First of all, we chatted about bringing stability to our kiddos. Then we talked about marriages. And then this week, we're talking about ourselves. So we're so glad to have you here. How are you doing this morning, Mindy?
Really good. I did spill coffee on my new shirt on the way in here, but it's all good because, like you said, Lana, it's patterned. So you can't really tell.
It's beautiful and you can't even tell. Coffee would go right with it. So you're good. You're good. So how are you doing? Did you have a good week? How is your new job going? Are you enjoying that? I'm so excited for you.
I absolutely love it. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I accepted a job here at Pleasant Valley Church as the counseling coordinator. So that's been absolutely beautiful to watch God do that 25 years later. That was my dream job, no joke, in my undergraduate program. And at that time in my life, I decided to get married and start having babies instead of going to complete my master's. So having had done that in my 40s, my early 40s, and now it's just beautiful how God brought me back around to this position. So there's a lot to do here and I'm having a blast.
Yeah. And it's such a needed, especially in
Mhm.
the past year and a half to 2 years with COVID.
Yep.
I know requests for counseling and just a lot of things going on in the community. So it's much needed. And I'm glad that you're in there filling that spot and making a difference in our community.
Absolutely. And the topic today is self-care. So uh, I am all things self-care, having had previously been a gym owner, personal trainer. I'm still a Pilates, certified Pilates instructor and cyclist. And so the beautiful marrying of the body and self-care and emotional and spiritual and mental health has been sort of a dream of mine for a long time. And I'm there. So that's fun.
Yes, yeah. And I think it's just such a good fit. And the reason that I wanted to bring Mindy on and talk about this is because I think there's a lot of things out there in the world on this topic. But I don't know, the things that I've seen just seem a little bit off and not really taking it from the spiritual level for Christian women. So
Amen.
I'm glad to bring Mindy on and have her just share some of her wisdom with us from that perspective. So go ahead, take it away. I know you have a couple of things, topics and tips, practical tips to share with us on our own self-care so that we can be the mother and wife and caretakers and all the things that we as women do. We're so, we're always multitasking. But if we're not filled up, it's not going to happen. So I'm glad that you're here to share some tips. So go ahead.
Well, first of all, I do want to point out exactly what you just alluded to is that the world's version of self-care, I've been there and I've done that. Possibly you have too, Lana, and I'm just positive that the person listening today has probably done it the world's way. That left me completely desolate, dry bones, emotionally wrecked, because self-care, while the word starts with self, the best self-care starts with our relationship with Jesus, starts with our knowledge and our self-awareness within his creation. And so if you're listening today, I just want you to sort of reflect on ways that the world has shared what self-care is with you and how you've maybe tried to live that out and how you maybe still felt exhausted and not renewed. Like for instance, self-care is not simply a massage. Now, do I get a massage every month? Heck yeah. And sometimes my body is hurting enough where I have to call and say, I just pulled that muscle, that one difficult knot that you're always working on is killing me today. What do you have? Can I get in? So do I sometimes go twice a month? Heck yes. And so can it be a form of self-care and a much needed thing? Yes. But self-care starts first of all with our self-awareness inside God's creation.
So good. Yes, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So with that being said, I wanted to really dive into what self-awareness looks like. First of all, I think that there's that saying that says, nobody knows yourself as well as you do, which has some truth to it, right? But a lot of us avoid getting to know ourselves in very deep, intimate ways because it's kind of scary when we do that.
Yeah,
right? We start peeling
absolutely.
back the layers of emotional pain and hurt that we've been shoving down. That honestly, that trauma, that childhood hurt, that pain, that collective trauma that we're all been going through during this pandemic, all of it being shoved down eventually is going to live out within your body. I'm a firm believer in that. And you can just shove it down all you want for years. It's going to bubble back up. It's going to show somewhere and it's going to present, and a lot of times within pain within your body, within relationships or how you struggle within relationships, whether it's your marriage or with your friends. So being self-aware requires you to take a step back, sit in those really difficult emotions, sit in that really difficult pain and begin to understand it and how it affects you. And so I think that is the number one step that we're always trying to skip over that hard part.
Absolutely.
We're always trying to just move it right into the massage or just move into a Netflix night with some popcorn, or we sometimes mistake self-care for self-numbing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say for my friends and audience here online, a lot of them are from the homestead community or have backyard farms, chickens, those type, lots of gardening. And for those of us in that community, we've kind of purposely taken the simple life. Simple living is kind of a tag buzz phrase that we say a lot.
Mm,
But these women are tough as nails and they
mm,
work. And the mindset in that homestead community is don't deal. You're going to go to bed and your head's going to be hurting and your back is going to be aching because you've been shoveling manure and all the things. And so it's kind of trendy or known in that community that you're just tough and you suck it up. And I do think it is something that, the simple living is not simple. It's not easy. It's hard work. And the women and men too, the two men that might be listening, most of this group is going to be women, but we're known for just toughening it out. And I am so glad to bring you on so you can go into that self-awareness, because I think it's something that, although there's a lot of benefits to being that hard worker and pushing through and kind of stuffing it down and making it happen, when it comes to mental health and all of those things, I think we're missing it.
mhm,
So yeah,
mhm.
I totally agree.
Self-care too, a lot of that this is actually prominent within our culture too. So I think about how our country has really been developed on the homesteader, right?
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
we went west and we
Pioneers,
found
yes.
land and we
My
established
grandma did
ourselves.
that.
Oh,
My great grandparents, they were, on the wagon trails and coming on through. So yeah, it's in our history. Many of us.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
ingrained in us, and and these are great qualities, right? This is part of the American dream. These are great qualities to be able to stake some ground, literally stake some ground back then,
Mhm.
work the land. And there was no time. I mean, when you're giving birth to your own babies out in the field somewhere, we laugh
Right.
about it now, but that's still real in other parts of the world. So just that piece of suck it up, buttercup is sort of grounded in our culture, and it's healthy in some aspects. Of course, sometimes we have to cope and get through things, but it becomes really unhealthy when we never sit. So the other opposite side of that for those homesteaders is what I want to keep calling them. They had time to reflect in nature,
Sorry about that.
right? So they're sort of um they may have worked really hard with their hands and literally got themselves dirty on their knees or climbing trees, picking berries, doing all the things, but they also had time to sit in silence
Right.
and
Yes.
reflect. And so we've sort of shoved that part of that beautiful piece of sitting in nature and shoved that out and only stuck with the hard work. Right. So this
Right.
plays out so many ways in our culture. For me, it played out in the fitness world. When I was saying it left me desolate, that is very much a sports addict or fitness addict or athlete addict. I would say sometimes I see this in my young Marine. It's sort of like suck it up, buttercup. You don't really have a choice. You've got to
Mhm.
save your country. So climb up that hill and
Right.
and protect the country. But it often leaves us in a place of where we are just so desolate, where we are literally dry bones because we miss the piece of interacting in the world in a way that feels receiving of God within his earth. Right. There's something really powerful about understanding yourself, how your body's reacting. So let's take your farmer person. I don't know. I'm sorry
Mhm.
if I'm calling your audience farmer persons. That's not really
It
great.
works. We go
Okay.
by all kinds of names.
Okay.
Just don't call us late for dinner. Sorry,
um,
bad humor.
I know, but I get it. My my in-laws, for instance, wonderful Southern Missouri, hardworking, meat and dairy farmers. Um, they work the land, but they also they don't know how to express their emotion,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? So they're shoving it down and doing the hard work. Same thing with me in the fitness world. It was a suck it up, a buttercup mentality. So I would get very little sleep running my business. I would get very little sleep getting up and teaching classes at 5 a.m. I would get very little sleep working the business plan, writing fitness training plans for other people. And it would just be like, give me more and then some. Like I needed to get past that boiling point. And then some was always the message, and then some. And I was just running out of and then somes. And it got so bad that while I was teaching other people to care for their bodies and to lose weight and to eat healthy, I wasn't paying attention at all to the ways that my body was screaming at me, like literally quite screaming. And I could see this happening in the community that you work with too. Our bodies are constantly communicating with us as they exist in the world and in the nature. They're constantly interacting with the external environment. So even coming down to, I'm talking like maybe your ankle's hurting, right? So your ankle's hurting, you're going to attune to that ankle hurt. You're maybe like going to maybe slow down for the day, put your foot up, and you're going to put some ice on it, right? But I'm also talking about the anxieties that come along with it. Like how many times are you ignoring that lump in your throat when that one person comes around, right? Or when how many times are you ignoring the tension in your body and the stomach ache that comes when you look at your calendar for the day and you're wondering, how am I going to get to all of those appointments on time? Right. So we tend to ignore the other signs that our body is screaming at us oftentimes, right? And that nervous system is interacting with the brain, that's interacting with the heart, that's interacting with the stomach. God created a beautiful design. Y'all, I'm like fired up about this right now. God created this beautiful design called the body, and it's interacting with the nervous system that's interacting with the cardiovascular system, right? And it's all saying like, okay, I'm feeling nervous, my stomach's hurting. I'm feeling nervous, I'm going to feel that lump in my throat, right? So asking yourself where all those things come from, what do they mean? Let me give you an example. For instance, the last 4 years of our lives were just really difficult. Now, some of my friends would joke and say, no, that's not true, Mindy. The last 8 years since you got your daughters home from Africa have been difficult. You're saying 4, but particularly the last 4 years were really difficult. I would say that I was ignoring and just sort of excusing away this weird anxiousness that I would get. My husband decided we needed a boat. So he got a boat several years ago, and I don't have dizzy issues at all. I don't get dizzy. I didn't have inner ear issues, but life was chaotic. And so I began, every time we went on the boat, I would have these weird, just nausea moments. And I would just think it was, oh, I'm just nauseous from the water. But I've never experienced any of that my whole life, right? And I've always just loved being on the boat and or someone else's boat. When I went to my counselor and I began to process this funny thing that I kept excusing away, she said, Mindy, have you thought about the other things that are going on in your life right now? Sure, you're on the boat and you're having fun, but perhaps this is anxiety presenting itself because of all the other things. Are you feeling that stomach ache and that anxiety in your stomach in other parts of your day? So that forced me, her one question forced me to be self-aware enough to pay attention to other times when I was feeling it. For some reason, the boat made it intensified, right? But it had meaning to it, because when I realized what it was all about, my family was falling apart. And so the kids, it would mainly be around the kids when they were skiing or when they were like behind the boat on it, and we were going fast and like whipping them around on a tube, right? And it had connections to my emotional fears for losing my children.
For
like
them falling off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so once I dealt with that, and this was a time, honestly, when my oldest son was really starting to rebel, and life was feeling chaotic, and I couldn't keep control of him anymore, right? Because he was a teenager, and you just, as a parent, you move from, you have a lot of control in their elementary, middle school years. Then they move into this space where you're like, they're going out into the world and their peers are influencing them more. I felt out of control in more ways than one. And it was presenting in really big ways on the boat. guess what? I don't have that feeling anymore. But now I've created such a reputation for myself on the boat that I'm like, kids, I'm fine now. I can go on the boat. They don't ever want me to go on the boat with them anymore.
Oh, how funny is
for
that? I love
3
it.
years, I had this issue and it's gone because I dealt with it in other ways, but it was representative. It was more about me feeling out of control. So my point in telling you that story was going back to the piece about how massively important it is for you to have self-awareness first before you can have self-care.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because if you don't have self-awareness and you don't know where the things are coming from and you're not listening to your body and the lump in your throat, then you're going to be grasping for any kind of self-care that works for you, even though it might work for you for an hour, but it's not going to be long-term renewing. And so that also requires you to discover yourself within God's creation. So for instance, I have currently been doing 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. And particularly it would be great if it could be in nature for the aspect of self-care and renewing. The second one needs to be like strength training. So 2 45-minute workouts. For me, that's just kind of what I've been doing.
That's good.
Thank you. I'm enjoying it and it's really helping. Yesterday, though, I got up and I did my first 45-minute workout inside. I was excited. I did some hardcore strength training. It was great. So I knew in my brain, like, okay, second thing I need to do, I need to be outside. Well, sometime within the afternoon, I don't even know what happened, but I pulled a muscle in my back. Like I was feeling pretty miserable. And so I could have chosen to be super rigid with myself and say, oh, I've been doing this thing with myself. I have to go outside. I have to go speed walking outside. Instead, now I would have made myself worse, right? I probably would have hurt that back more. That would have been the old Mendy saying, suck it up, buttercup, get your booty outside, do the thing you committed to. Instead, I took my yoga mat. I took my foam roller. It was a beautiful night outside. I turned my back porch lights on. And as the trees swayed, right? And there was a deer behind the house. It was a beautiful moment for me.
Sounds dreamy.
It doesn't it sound dreamy for all of you who love the
Yes.
outdoors and you work with your animals? There was a deer, you know, I was in pain, but I got on that yoga mat. I was breathing in and out. So my second workout for the day was foam rolling and stretching, praying that I would wake up feeling better. And guess what I did? So this morning I knew, okay, be gentle on your body. What can you do? So this morning I went on a nature hike with there's some land just right down the street, like 70, 80 acres. And someone else owns it. Don't tell anyone. But and
they won't know.
They won't know. But I decided to put my boots on. And as the sun came up, it was a glorious workout for me to hike on that land. Nothing better. So I was experiencing my breath this morning as the sun came up, experiencing God's glorious sunrise, reflecting on him. I didn't play praise and worship music. I just wanted to breathe in and out. I didn't walk super fast. But my point is that was a self-care moment because I was self-aware enough yesterday to know what my body needed in that time. I was self-aware when I woke up this morning and thought, what can I do this morning to continue this self-care, going for a walk, connecting with the nature. I think those are vital, important parts of being really intentional about our self-care.
That just sounds magical. I think we should all do that every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds great.
So do some of those things resonate with you, Lana, as far as how we suck it up, as far as how we can be if we're not self-aware about what our body needs in those moments, we can miss the mark on what self-care really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, just from my standpoint and it doesn't always have to be, you can go off schedule for your self-awareness as well. And I'm kind of the same way. I usually do only one, if even one. I try to do it every day, but sometimes it doesn't happen. But I try to do my, outside, either, kind of walk or trail walk or whatever in the morning. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but I'll be sitting at my desk, midday, computer technology, where I get to where I just want to throw my computer out the window.
Yes.
Frustrated, trying to work things out. Of course, I I'm not techie. I can figure anything out with a couple of YouTube videos, but it takes me, hours or whatever. And so I know now at the moment where I'm about ready to lose my mind on it, shut the computer, shut the laptop, ditch my phone, put it on the charger, and I head
Mhm.
outside, and it's time to either hang out with the goats or take a quick little walk. Sometimes that's the time I pick to, clean out the chicken coop. And sometimes it's, hard labor, but like
I'm having a hard
focusing.
time with the
I know.
fact that your self-care is cleaning out the chicken coop, but
But
to
if
each
it's
his own.
something, I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but it's something else on my list. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I was planning on, I'm not getting off this computer till 4 o'clock. I'm not till I get these 4 things done on my computer. And just knowing it's okay to go off script, shut it
Mhm.
down,
Mhm.
maybe hit up another list of yours or
Yep.
turn everything off. And it's time to go outside and listen to your praise and worship music or not. Maybe it's just time to hear the birds. But I think having some flexibility in that and knowing, I can't wait to take my walk till 7 o'clock tonight. I need it right now at
Yep.
2:30 before I throw
Yes.
this computer out the window. So just knowing where you're at, and it's okay to go off script, and it might be a full hour that you need, but you come back feeling refreshed, and you can take on the world, and open the computer back up and things work.
I think of my husband too. He's come a long way with his own personal self-care and his own personal self-awareness, going back to that farmer in him. His parents are farmers from Southern Missouri, very good people, extremely hardworking people. And he has this great work ethic, right? That he learned from that farmer-like mentality. And I absolutely love it. It served him well because he's very successful. But on the flip side, like I said earlier, he struggles with allowing himself to process emotions, allowing himself to just sit and
Have
be,
downtime.
have downtime. We kind of joke like in our relationship, because I'm like an outgoing person. I talk with my hands. I'm, always talking to someone or introducing myself to someone. So in a way, he feels like he loves my personality and we complement each other that way. But like, I'm like drinking from a fire hydrant, right? If you, and then sometimes I feel like he's like, it's like dry bones, dude. Like, come on, dude,
Right.
come on.
Right.
This little trickles of water coming out. But
Yeah.
when he begins to feel that way, he's had to become way better at saying to me, instead of shoving it down, and saying to me, I need a weekend at our farm. Like we have a farm about an hour and 20 minutes north of here. And he'll say, I need a weekend. I just need to go mow something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just need to go fix a fence that doesn't need to be fixed.
Right. And he knows that he's going to come back feeling better and more accomplished.
Yeah. And sometimes it ticks me off, right? Because I wanted him to stay home for the weekend, or I wanted to do this and I had this agenda, but then I have to be self-aware enough in myself to go, that's what I need from him. I need him to communicate with me on his self-awareness, because if he doesn't, then I'm going to react in this way when he was trying to do this. And the next week we're going to have a knockdown, drag out fight.
Right.
So if I can listen to him, respond and say, get your booty up there on that tractor and go mow some trails.
Right.
Go find some trails to mow. And then,
Yes.
by Wednesday, the next week, we're jiving. We're doing good. We're tag teaming our kids. We're in the group. So I can't say it enough. Like self-care first starts with self-awareness and advocating for yourself. And self-care is going to be different for every single person. However, and I think this resonates with your audience, I'll repeat it again. I really, really believe that self-care is most effective when it's coupled with God's creation, God's nature, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
And
And like you said, a lot of times I will this is the first year that I've done my Bible reading plan on uh, on the audio app. And at first I used to think of audio books as not real books, not real reading. But it is powerful. So a lot of times I will use my morning walk and I will be listening and going through the Bible. And it's just, there's something about, I could be sitting on my couch reading it like I always have in the past. But when I am out walking a trail, and I've said this before, when you're out in nature, walking a trail, and that you can pick your voices on the audio apps. And I have this deep voice and they're reading Revelation. And I'm like,
That's cool.
wow, this is like powerful stuff. But it is, there are other days where I'm just like, yeah, nothing today, or worship music, or sometimes I'm listening to a podcast that has nothing to do with anything, just mindless stuff. But knowing what you need on each day that you're out there doing the thing, sometimes silence is better and you're just hearing the birds chirp or whatever. And sometimes, reading the Bible or worshiping or whatever mindless things that you want to do. But just knowing what you need on that day. And every day is different.
Every day is different.
Mm-hmm.
The last piece that I wanted to share with your audience about self-care has to do with kind of staying on script, but I do want to absolutely validate what you're saying about like get off script. Some days you just need to chuck it and get out and do something else. But I do think that having predictable, healthy daily habits are critical for the rhythms that we create within ourselves, and having those predictable, healthy daily habits allows us to better understand, like, okay, I'm struggling now, because you're in a rhythm, right? And your body is predicting what's coming. So also, and then inside that rhythm, you can say, I need to pause and then allow myself to heal in this next hour. And then I'm going to get right back onto that rhythm. Like our bodies, we're used to rhythms, right? God created rhythms. We've got day, we've got night, we've got habits. He tells us in the Old Testament, he tells his people, like, do this during this time, doing this during this time, doing this, and it's for their good, right? Same thing with us as we go throughout our day, as we go throughout our year, creating those habits, those consistencies allows us to better know ourselves when we're off. So with that being said, that's why I've created a 90-day healthy habits journal.
Yes, tell them about it. It's so fabulous.
Yes, I absolutely love it. So what this journal allows is for reflectiveness. Every single day, we reflect on how many hours we slept, because if there's one thing that your body needs most for self-care, it's good, consistent rhythms of sleep. So we track our sleep, we track our water intake. I've been reading the best book by Dr. Amen. Have you ever heard of Dr. Amen?
I have not. No.
Oh, he's a brain expert. And so in his book, he gives these images of brain images of brains that are hydrated versus brains that are dehydrated. Like in the book, he told the story of how he was working with a bodybuilder, which really resonated with me because I used to be a fitness trainer and have my own gym. He was working with this bodybuilder that was just struggling in life. And so the bodybuilder comes in, he does the brain scan, and he's like, what is going on with this guy's brain? And he probes and asks some questions and realized that the bodybuilder was having a competition in 2 days. So a lot of times bodybuilders will dehydrate their bodies so that they'll shrink down and their muscles are more defined in the last week, right? And that dehydrated brain was causing massive brain fog and unpredictability for his body. He was like, it was an unsustainable lifestyle for him. So then the Dr. Amen was like, ding, 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 like light bulbs going off, like you have to stop this, like your body can't do this. So we track our daily water intake, which I think is highly, highly important. We also have a scripture that we reflect on. I'm really big on journaling. You can just read one scripture, one set of scriptures, and then just receive from the Lord and then write him a letter every day. And then of course, writing a daily to-do list, and then, marking those things, the action of like marking your to-do list off feels really good for your body, right?
Best. Yes.
Yeah. So, and within the 90-day healthy habits journal, we do that all on one sort of spread. And I try to encourage women to stay the course for 90 days. There's a lot of programs out there like this. I think the difference between more of a secular or worldly one would be that I'm a huge advocate for what we're talking about right now, is that if you have a day where you get off, you just turn the page and start anew tomorrow. Like we don't get stuck in the day or two that we didn't fill the habits out. We just pray and we move on to the next day.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important because many times we will get stuck. And if we get off track or something takes us out of our schedule, then we feel like we've messed up for the whole week. And that's not the case. You can start over that next day. And the journal is just beautiful and fabulous. It's nice to be able to track all the things and your thoughts. And you can go back the next day and take a look at what you did get finished and what you didn't. But yeah, it's a fabulous, fabulous journal.
Thank you. We have a Bible study that actually inspired the 90-day journal. So we actually study each one of those healthy habits inside the Healthy Habits Bible study. So when I was healing, specifically, this is where this Bible study came from. When I was healing from that suck it up buttercup lifestyle and mentality, that was really a residual from being a successful fitness business owner, I began to study, what does the Bible actually say about these healthy habits, right? What does the Bible actually say about self-care? And so that's where this was birthed out of, as I began to write those things down and study them diligently all throughout the Word.
And I love that you are taking what seems to be so common out in the world right now, the concept of self-care. But the foundation of that is God, and living within his systems and going to the Bible to find, how do we relieve these stresses and how do we do these things? I think that's what makes it extra special. And I'm glad you're here to share it with us. So where can they find your journal and your Bible study? Tell them all of your places.
Yeah, so you can go to gospelcenteredhealth.com. Everything is there. We bundle them together. You can buy it separately. You can purchase it, do it in your neighborhood, do it in your women's Bible study. We're really excited about that. We have a leader's guide and promotional materials there for you if you just choose to collect some women to do that. So gospelcenteredhealth.com. Of course, you can follow us on Instagram at Gospel Centered Health, and then also on Facebook at Gospel Centered Health.
Right. And I love that your study can be done alone if you're in a phase where you're just busy and you're lucky to get anything done, but it's also a good community group type of thing. So if you need an excuse to get with some girlfriends, and whether that's Zoom or actually meeting together or whatever that looks like, it is a wonderful opportunity to do that with a group and get the community. We need that as a part of our self-care, is having a group around us that can support us, that you can pour into, and they can pour into you too. So I think over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've missed that with COVID and lockdowns, and we've stopped getting together. So I love that you can do it either way, either by yourself or with a group. So very nice. Well, Mendy, thank you for coming on today and sharing your wisdom. I appreciate you so much. And I'm a little bit bummed that this is our last in this series, but we'll have you on as a regular guest. So we'll bring you back here not too long from now. So you have a fabulous day, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Lana.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.